All right. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Mr. RG, and this is another episode of the Fame City Urban News Report. So today what we're going to talk about is something that's kind of close to me. Might be close to a lot of people, I'm sure, if you're a parent, is how we going to bridge this gap with the younger generation, because as being a little older, a little wiser, a little more mature, we can kind of see some of the behaviors and how extreme they are, right? And we find it a hard time to be able to communicate with them in a way where they can really see our point of view, which kind of makes you sound like your mother or your father, right? But on a serious note, what we gotta start doing, I think, is initially here is with the discussion, because this is just part one of a series. So today in part one, what we're gonna kind of focus on is looking at some of the challenges that our youth have to face today, and kind of getting a better understanding of those challenges, which gives us a better understanding of them, right? Because ultimately, if we want to be successful in this communication process, we have to gain understanding. Now, for me, I see a lot of, sex and violence is always so, right? But it just seems like now they done went completely out of control with it. I mean, it's so far past the point of return that, you basically can't have the internet or cable without your children being exposed to highly graphic sexual and violent content, right? Now, some people might say that this shit is art, right? They defend it in that way, but we gotta understand the bombardment that is being pushed on them. As you can see, we've gotten to a point where a person's sexual identity has become more important than the actual person, right? So we gotta understand that the sex and violence is heavy. Then we gotta look at this whole digital age, because we didn't have the gadgets and the devices and the access and the things that they have right at their fingertips. So I think we always kind of come off hypocritical, because we forget that if we would have had those things, we'd probably be doing some of the same stuff that they're doing. I mean, some of y'all played y'all Ataris and Nintendos and Sega Genesis all damn night instead of doing your homework, and your mom had to come in there and shut off the TV. Or you remember the Sega Genesis used to actually, if you played them too much, they would actually damage the television. So we would play the game back when we were younger until the TV stopped working. So stop perping and stop playing. So we got to look at the digital age and what it means for them, and how they look at it, and how they connect with it, and how they identify and represent themselves through a lot of digital media and things like that. Now, of course, music and entertainment, right, is big, because now hip hop is still, the number one music genre, and it's still extremely influential. And here's another example of where we gotta try not to be hypocrites. If some of y'all remember when the Beastie Boys came out with Brass Monkey, everybody went out and tried some damn Brass Monkey, right? So we know that popular music and popular culture will influence actions and behaviors. I'm sorry for people who think it won't, it will. Because some of y'all didn't start hustling until you heard some gangster rap. Some of y'all didn't want to be gangsters until you heard gangster rap. And some of y'all that never participated in gangster activity still use gangster rap as a theme song for your life, right? So we can't be hypocrites from that aspect, y'all. Because you gotta know that the young kids can see through hypocrisy. They can see when we full of shit. So if you think you're gonna be able to scoop up some bullshit and have them eat it, they not. They might grin and smile and say okay, but they know you full of shit, which eventually will affect your credibility, which will just render you useless. If you have no credibility with them, then you're never gonna be effective. So being a hypocrite is one of the quickest and fastest ways for them to stop listening to you. So those are some of the challenges that our youth are facing, and they definitely need assistance in comprehending and seeing how it all fit into their life, right? Because remember that, you know, the youth, they're impressionable, and a lot of the behaviors that they develop now is gonna carry over into adulthood, right? Some of you niggas still don't know how to clean up behind yourself. So that's why it's so important. Now, one thing I want to say before I sign off here today with you is we don't have to do so much talking as we have to do more listening and more observing. Because if we listen and observe them, they're going to tell us and show us what's really going on. But we got to be willing to pay attention. We can't be so caught up into being right and because we know so much, because we've been through so much, that we negate the significance of their own individual experience, right? We don't have the same pressures in the sense that they have. There's some similarities, but there's a lot of differences. We don't have the digital age. We don't have just the access to sex and violence and bullshit. Let's just keep it real. They got these kids on some real drugs now. We had dirt weed and 40 ounces. They got lean, they got ecstasy, they got Molly, they got pills. They got genetically modified weed that's so motherfucking good you forget who you are. So there's some similarities, but they got additional challenges. And in order for us to make sure that they get through this stage, that they become the people we want them to be, we got to gain more understanding of them. We got to be more compassionate to who they are, right? Running around beating and yelling at your kids is only going to make them more violent. It's not going to make them peaceful. It's a million niggas in the penitentiary that got their ass whooped as kids, but they still ended up going to the motherfucking penitentiary. So that shit don't always work. I know some kids so goddamn bad you want to bust them upside their head, but let's be honest, violence only begets more violence. Because if you teach them that every time that they wrong, you beat their ass, then whenever they feel somebody wrong, they gonna be violent. You gonna fuck around and get them shot in the head, teaching them that bullshit. Now, if you're raising them in the jungle, I get it, I understand their survival techniques, and I can relate to that, and I understand that, and I'm not minimizing that either, right? Because as a man, I understand that every man must be prepared to defend himself, but I'm talking about exuding and exerting a certain aura or vibe that you're looking for. That's what we got to get away from. But just gain understanding, be willing to listen, and listen so you know, as not to respond, but as to understand, okay? And if ain't nobody else told you, you know, I'm gonna tell you now. Ray love you, baby. Everybody keep your head up, give it everything you got, and stay woke, and that way they can't sell you no dream. In a minute.